Good day. This is a Devar Torah on Parashat Emor. It is a parsha containing many different concepts. It goes over first of all, it starts with laws of the Kohen, who they're allowed to marry, who they're allowed to matame themselves, make themselves impure when a person dies. And it goes on to a number of other laws for Kohanim. And then most of the rest of the parsha goes on discussing the various holidays that are going to be, and including in this week's parsha, we discuss. This is where we have the commandment of Suras Omer, counting the Omer, which we've been doing now. Today, or actually this evening, will be the 20. I'm not counting. Will be the 28th day. We've done 4 weeks, and what I'd like to address briefly here is what is the whole purpose? Why? What is the whole purpose? What is the deeper spiritual meaning? And finally, why do we need 7 weeks? I mean, the Chumash says 7 weeks from the second day of Pesach. But why do we need it? Why did Hashem felt we need 49 days? And also, if you look, we're supposed to be improving ourselves over the 49 days of various pharaohs, but it's a community thing as well as an individual. Now, if you look at Elul, even though Sfarim say Slikos for the whole month of Elul, and Ashkenazim for at least minimum of 4 days before Rosh Hashanah, the main community activity there is not the counting of the Omer, which customarily is done with everybody there in the congregation, while the other one is more of a private thing. And other interesting thing, we say that Shavuos is the Etzeret gathering, the 8th day, not literal 8th day, but the gathering that culminates from Pesach. Now, the question is, when we get to Shmini Atzeret, which is the 8th day, 7 days Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret, why is there not a 7-week gap there? You do that for Pesach, shouldn't you do that for shouldn't you do that at that time too? Now the answer on that one is fairly easy. That one is because we, in the tshuva process we're doing now, we do not have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Hashem has not judged us and hopefully forgiven us, so we'll have a good new year. That is something that we don't have now. So this is why it could be the 8th day. But I'd like to look at the theme of this counting on a different level. This is based on the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, who basically, I'd like to ask the following. I'd like to preface what he says. Let's look at this. We are in a very interesting period, which started with the holiday of Tu B'Shvat. Now, which introduces a theme that we're going to see here. And what is that theme? Is the relationship of love between Hashem and, as the chassan, so to speak, the groom, and the Knesset Israel, the Jewish people, as the bride. Where do we see that? Because what is the Tu B'Shvat? That is the day where there's a proclamation. Now, 40 days before a child is conceived, it announces that, let's say, Reuven ben Shmuel will marry Rivka bat Shimon. And that's announced 40 days before the child is conceived. So what's going on here? What conception are we talking about? Well, the conception we're going to be talking about is the creation of the universe. Now, 40 days before, it's being announced that what is who's marrying whom? That Hashem will be marrying the Jewish people, Knesset Israel. So this started way before physical creation. And again, it shows Hashem's love of the Jewish people. What happens next? The Jewish people who were freed from slavery a year earlier, Hashem frees us the night of the Pesach, the Seder. We have this concept of Hashem loving us. Now, in the month before the Seder night, 15th of Nisan, Hashem is performing a great act of love for all of his people, because while we were asleep, he is making it possible for our systems to cleanse 1/30 of the spiritual chametz, the Yetzer Hara, being the tempest on the wrong side, is being cleansed from us while we sleep. Again, Hashem showing his love for us. And what happens? On Pesach night, there's no Yetzer Hara, the Seder night, and the next day. Then Hashem, that's one thing that Hashem does for us. Now on Pesach at Shav, it's showing his love for us. First of all, the liberation of Egypt, from Egypt. And even though we're going to need these 49 days, he brought us up to a new spiritual level and gave us the merits we needed, bris milah, and putting the blood on the lentils, doorposts, to give us mitzvahs to merit the liberation. And that's another sign of his love for us. He gave us the clouds of glory, the column of fire to guide us night and day and protect us from our enemies, and have climate-controlled conditions even there. And on the seventh day, again, Hashem shows us his love for us by saving us from the Egyptians, exacting justice from the Egyptians, and allowing us to effectively become a people. We see this same theory of love with Hashem in the Megillah. We read a different Megillah on each of the Yantas. One Megillah do we read here? Shir Shirim. On a literal text level, it sounds like a love of a man for a woman, but that's not the way it's supposed to be interpreted. People interpret it that way. It says the angels weep. And what we're supposed to be doing is learning it as a purely spiritual relationship between Hashem and the Jewish people. And that is another aspect of this. Now, we're seeing the concept of Hashem's spiritual love for his people and us loving him. So, question is, what do we need 49 days between second day of Shavuot, Pesach, to count 49 days till we're ready to get to Shavuot when we receive the Torah? Now, we have to look at the Torah as a receipt of it's like the marriage between the Jewish people and Hashem. When he's taking his own people, it's mutual. We receive his Torah. he gives his love to us. Now, if that's the case, why does the Chasam Hashem wait 49 days before the chuppah? And this is discussed by the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, and it says in the Pasuk 15, chapter 23 of Sefer Vayikra, V'Yisrael Lachem Mimacharei Hashabbat Miyom Bechem Et Omer Tenufa Shevet Shabbatot Et Tamim B'Chayenu. And it says Adam Marat Shabbat Shavis Tispor Chamishim Yom V'Kratem Mincha Chadash L'Hashem. And you shall bring, tomorrow you shall count 50 days to bring new offering, this time not of barley, but of flour. Now, why do we need 49 days? Now, we're using the example of a bride, Jewish people being a bride, and and Shem being the Chassan. For a woman to be purified after she's been rendered spiritually impure by Nida, her monthly cycle, she has to count 7 days, go to mikveh, then she's pure, and her husband and the wife can, he's in full marriage. So why didn't Hashem make it 7 days? Why 7 weeks? If we're using this analogy. And he explains because they were subject to the impurity of Egypt. It was so deep and so profound. It had to be 7 weeks. Why? Because the level of Tuma, remember, we're at the 49th level of impurity. We had to elevate ourselves. It's greater Tuma. It's greater than Tumas Nida. And it wasn't individual impurity. It was a collective impurity, the Jewish nation as a whole. And therefore, Hashem, wisdom, concluded that it had to be 49 days. Seven weeks instead of several days, as the Orach Chaim explains elsewhere in Sefer Shmos. It goes deeper. Now, one explanation is given, well, it's going to take 3 months to go from to reach, after leaving Egypt, to reach the Yam Suf, to reach Har Sinai. And so they needed a 7 weeks. Because it says Perush The Siba V'yotzam Eretz Mitzrayim, which means the departure, reason of departure is a place of Tuma. This was approved, the giving of Torah was delayed until the third month. It wasn't distance because, you look, when they went from Rephidim, which is a place where they battled with Amalek, and they arrived in this wilderness. One day. So why 49? And we can see from here, the Or Chaim explains that because of his great love for us, why did we make him wait to travel into the third month? Why couldn't they have miraculously sent it? He says, if we're going to hold by the reason that we're not ready to receive the Torah, then it fits very nicely. He didn't want to make them suffer, because if he had shortened the way, he could have waited there for 7 weeks, but it's like this, as the Or Chaim goes on to explain. Sinai was the wedding hall, Simcha hall. Now just imagine you get to the wedding hall, said, you know what? Now you got to wait. You're not getting married today. They've been desiring each other. You're not getting married today or this week. So he did not want to make the people suffer. So he made the trip longer. So in the meantime, we could purify ourselves. I mean, there's other explanations why, in addition, we had to do that in terms of getting certain klipot and things up, but going with this explanation for now. Didn't want to have a wait in the wedding hall for a long time without it taking place. So he kept them in a different place so they wouldn't be yearning. So because of Hashem's love. But once the bride arrives, you need to do the wedding quickly. So he kept us away so we wouldn't suffer needlessly. We needed the purification, but he didn't want to make us suffer additionally. And that brings the question, okay, Egypt, then we were impure, 49 levels of impurity. Why ever since? We only left Egypt once. So why for all the years now that we need 49 days? And was their purity mixed in with their nefesh, the soul, only could, after that was removed and the neshamas were pure, could the marriage take place. And making a comparison to the Logos. So those are the people, Jewish people like the Logos, the tablets. What is with the tablets? As explained, the Lucas were made of Saperinon. It says, Liza Amashav Saray 10. Count yourselves, which, aside from its little meaning, it loses some word, Shif Neprenun, means by means of counting, you shall cleanse your souls of impurity, and therefore cause ourselves to shine once more like the Lukos, Sanperon, and therefore we can make ourselves into Lukos. We can make ourselves into that purity. So even today, it's purifying ourselves. Look, this time, when the period is Parashat Emor, there's a certain period of mourning because the students of Rabbi Akiva died, which is a whole separate topic. But we need the purification even now, because what did Hashem do? Everything in our year harkens back, has uh, different purposes. And what are those one of those purposes is to relive, like we talked about in the say, got to reliving the Exodus, like we've got to be there. We're reliving this period because what Hashem designed so that we're in that situation. We don't have the purities of Egypt. We have other influences. But as I mentioned before, for Pesach, he gives us one day, then he brings our Yetzirah impurities back so that we can again become like the Logos, shining like the Logos. And may we individually and collectively this year be blessed with coming to unity. And we may all shine by going through all these 49 days of looking at the different spheres, looking at different qualities, and purifying selves so that we'll truly deserve Matan Torah, the Shavuos, B'ezras Hashem, in the coming days, weeks, and months, or a few years. We'll get to the gates, the redemption. Good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.